The other thing I used to do for fun, oh my God, I used to write romance stories for my friends.
Oh, I love that.
Really?
Personalized romance stories.
Oh my God.
I mean, up to pretty recently, I'll ask a friend, I'm like, okay, who's your, big celebrity crush? And I'll write them a little, 20-page love story,
Oh my God, that's so
between
cool.
them.
It's like the children's books that have their names in them when they meet, Father Christmas.
Exactly. But in mine, you're getting, like Chris Evans is your hot, is the hot guy who comes.
Which
that you
one?
Bump into.
Which Chris Evans?
Chris Evans.
Which Chris Captain?
Yeah, I could see Shona just like, what? Hello and welcome to The World as It Should Be, a podcast in which we ask our guests to tell us what they would change to help create their perfect world.
By listening to what they'd like to change, we'll hear more about who they are, what they do, and what inspires them.
This podcast is brought to you by the team behind Prima Donna, a uniquely anarchic and joyous festival of everything creative.
My name is Shona Abianca, and I'm a book publicist working with some of the most thought-provoking authors writing today.
I'm Catherine Riley, a writer and director of the festival. We're delighted to be your guides on this podcast adventure. The World as It Should Be from Prima Donna.
Bronwyn Sweeney worked in the media as a copywriter and brand creative, working on everything from haircare to home furnishings.
When she was 29, Bronwyn's employer paid for her to do a 2-day stand-up comedy course, and she was smitten. She has gone from having a comedy career as a bit on a side to divulging secrets from inside the advertising industry as part of her routine on the stand-up circuit.
Earlier this year, Bronwyn made the grand final of the 2021 Funny Women Awards and finished as runner-up, impressing the judges with her high-energy performance and fake American from Blackpool routine, about which we'll hear more in a minute. Bronwyn, welcome to the Prima Donna podcast.
Hello. Oh my goodness. It's so nice to have such a great intro and have someone writing about me instead of me writing about other people, which is what I do during the day.
Yeah, so you still got the day job?
Yes, and just a little fact. I'm actually a creative director, which is also going to be making it into my routine because it's a very silly title that I don't think anyone really knows what it means, but it sounds great.
Yeah,
are you not like directing people to be really creative and?
Yeah, which means I'm just mean to all the young juniors now.
Beep this way, like that.
Yeah, exactly. Just wearing high vis creativity. No. Sorry.
So do you want to tell us about your fake American from Blackpool background?
Absolutely. Well, yes. So it is comedy, but it's funny because it's true. I was born in Blackpool in 1986. My dad was Irish, my mom's Zimbabwean, and they met in Zimbabwe and decided to move to Blackpool. And I was born there.
Why?
I think my dad's job was there at the time. He was an engineer. And yes, I grew up in Blackpool and then the north of England. And then my dad's job actually moved us to Greece after that. So I've grown up in a few different countries, but I've always been in American schools. So I identify as someone from, the north, but just don't sound like it. So I think I'm a northerner in spirit now more than anything, but I just happen to sound like this, I like to say transatlantic now. That kind of sounds nice.
Yeah.
As a copywriter, I like to kind of gloss, make it sound as nice as I can. But I did go to high school in Florida, which was an experience. I thought it was going to be a lot like the show Saved by the Bell. It was not.
What was it like?
I mean, I think now it was a good time, right? I think when I got there, it was a really tough adjustment. I would say the cultural shock of moving to the US in the 90s at that age was just, I don't know. I really thought I was going to go there, get an American boyfriend named Zach and drive around in a car, even though I was 11. This was the thought. I was just going to spend all my time at the mall and it was going to be amazing. And then it just was so hard. I think kids couldn't understand where I was from, they'd never heard of Blackpool. They didn't know that Greece was a country. They thought I'd moved from the movie, which was very confusing. It was just so weird. And I think my parents made me, we always laughed too, because my parents made me, do all these American, to make friends. They made me play sports and I was not an athletic child. They made me join the basketball team. And I think because I was half black, they thought I'd be good and I was not. And it was just one of those things, classic fish out of water. And I would eat lunch in the art room. My best friend was my art teacher, who was about 30 years older than me. And it was, we had so much fun. But then I think as I got older and, I just developed a bit of a personality. I made friends and ended up having a really good, classic American high school experience, right? Like driving around and going to prom. And then after that, I was like, I have to go. And I ended up fucking off to university in Italy. And I moved to Rome at 17.
Wow. How many languages can you speak?
Only 2. I can speak Italian and English.
Good ones to have.
And they're pretty, yeah. I mean, like Italian is a useless language everywhere but Italy and parts of like London that I've lived in. But like,
I think swearing in Italian is really powerful.
Sounds great. Yeah. Sounds great. It just
you need to use your hands. Yeah, I was going to say.
It's great.
But you have quite a large family, don't you? I think. And so when you moved, did you find it a comfort that your siblings were also going through this, or was there any difference in how they were experiencing it?
I think it's really interesting. It's a great question. Anyone who knows me knows I'm obsessed with my family. I'm one of 4 kids where we range in age from 38 to 24. It's like they're my world. We have the Sweeney Olympics every summer, every Christmas, which is just a bunch of adults playing games and embarrassing my mom. But like that's where I feel at home. Like wherever they are, doesn't matter in the world where I am. If my family is there, I feel like I fit in. But I would say that as similar as our experiences probably were, we went through this moving around and interpreted it different ways, especially at the different ages that we were at. My poor sister moved to Florida at like the awkward age of, I think 14, she would have been about 14, just in our very, like, firmly in the ugly duckling phase, my younger brother was really, I think, was young enough to love it, but then also had a hard time. But I'm sure, I mean, you could do a whole podcast about just what it's like to move around a lot. It's so interesting. I learned the term third culture kid, which has helped, I think, process my identity a little bit more. It's like kids who are of dual heritage or different like international backgrounds, but are raised in different countries. But, identity is something I think about a lot and, would like to weave into my comedy more because it's so funny to me, to feel like you're from a place you haven't lived in, to absorb all the cultures that you've experienced and it doesn't make sense to anybody else, Right. So when I get on stage and I know I start speaking and I hear the way I sound, people are going, oh yeah, like here we go, another loud American, and then you have to go, hang on, wait a second, there's I have different cultural touch points to people or the same ones,
Before we move on to your 3 things to change the world, I just wanted to ask you, part of what Prima Donna is about is kind of, demystifying, is for want of a better word, like the publishing industry or in your case, the comedy industry. How, like, can you tell us about your journey to being on stage at the final? You said that the Funny Women Awards final was the best gig of your life. So can you?
It really was.
Yeah, I know I was there. It was an amazing night. So can you tell us how you got there?
Sure. As you said in the intro, like I think like a lot of creatives in the advertising industry, we all have side hustles and things that, they always say that copywriters are like failed writers. And trust me, I have screenplays and books on the desktop that I've been working on for a long time. And I know that I've always loved to make people laugh. Again, I think life is really funny, or if you can't laugh at life, sometimes you'll just cry, right? And I noticed in meetings a lot of the times, I have to present so much. And it was getting to the point that I would get into meetings, and if I could make people laugh, that felt like success to me, almost more than the work going down well. And I thought that was interesting. And then, when my agency offered to pay for everyone to pursue a passion project, everyone got 100 quid to go do something. Some people did pottery, some people did baking. And I was like, well, now that I'm not paying for it, let's go do a comedy class and just see how this feels. And I went to some like 2-day course in South London. I wasn't very good. I didn't know how to translate being funny in real life to actually writing jokes. They were the first little 2 minutes I did in my workshop was god awful. I'm so embarrassed that anyone saw that. If anyone's listening, I apologize for the Monopoly joke. Just like lazy comedy is how I would describe it. I was like, oh, I didn't get the bug. This isn't for me. Never mind. And I waited a whole year and I went to go see someone else who had done the same course as me, just at like an open mic night. And I know it sounds bad, but she was pretty average. No, like, I mean, like she'd say she doesn't do comedy anymore. And I thought, gosh, like she's up there doing it. I think I can do that. I think if I go away and write the comedy I want to see, and of course, at the time I was working on a really bad pitch. It was going badly. I was questioning my job, my life, everything. And I thought, let's go write about it. And I went to an open mic night. Shout out to Funny Feckers. Great open mic night. And I just thought, oh, this is it. I get it. This is cathartic. It's really fun. And the first couple of years, I was just doing, any pub that would have me, and this varied from drafty lofts to like, dingy basements with like 6 people. And just slowly started building my confidence. And I think finding kind of what I wanted to talk about, blagging my way a lot. A lot of it is just kind of faking it till you make it. Some people asked me if I had the experience to do a 20-minute set once, and I said yes. And I definitely didn't. But it went okay. A friend of mine is a drag queen. So I started doing opening his nights for him, which was just amazing to be around that kind of creativity. I just absolutely love the drag scene in London. And then the pandemic happened, and I wasn't one of those people who was doing Zoom gigs because I had the worst internet in the world. And it was just breaking my spirit. And I thought, well, just leave it for a little bit. And I'd found out about the Funny Women Awards. I'd followed it for a few years and never felt like it was the right time for me. And then I kind of thought, well, the world's going to shit, so let's do it. And luckily the heats were online. I felt very bad. I did the first heat from Portugal. Like, I was like, oh no, poor me. Like, I have to be funny in a villa.
Poor you.
Poor me. And it was one of those things where, not to sound like, a classic like woman with imposter syndrome, but because comedy's always just been something I do for fun, I really didn't expect to do well. I was like, I'm just so happy to be in this competition with all these amazing comedians, and then I made it to the next level and I was like, oh, okay, maybe you're better than you thought. Or maybe the judges just kind of like to hear someone make fun of advertising. Surely you're not going to make it to the next round. And then I did. And when I got the email that I was in the final, once again, I just thought, I feel so lucky. I feel so like humbled, really. Hashtag humbled. And it was one of those things that didn't feel real until I got to the gig itself. To perform on stage with that kind of audience who are just rooting for you to do well is such a lovely experience. I just can't say how amazing it was enough. But yeah.
Yeah. I think it's incredible that you did the stand-up gig from the 100 quid that your boss gave you initially. And then you thought, oh, I'm no good, I'm just going to leave it. But something inside you was still burning and you went back and you carried on. And a lot of people give up at that stage because they think, oh, I've tried it and I realized I'm not good. So there was obviously something in there that you were just not going to let it go.
I think also something I really want to advocate is like, it's okay to not feel, I don't know, like I feel like a lot of comedians I meet, they go, I did it, I loved it, this is for me. And we think in life that unless we, there has to be this moment of passion and absolute, certainty about things. And it's not
success.
Always like that. And
like
success, exactly.
Succeed.
You don't have to do something because you're great at it. You can do it because you want to. You can let the I don't know, like the love build slowly over time. Also, it doesn't have to be instant. It doesn't have to be. And I'm really glad that, like you said, Shona, like there was a voice in my head that said, come on, just keep going because you have nothing to lose. And
there's that kind of notion in book publishing, definitely, like, if you are a writer, your talent will write, no matter what, you'll definitely get a book deal because your talent will elevate you. And it's like, that is such bullshit. If you're a black writer or a female writer or a queer writer, there are so many obstacles to talent. And also, it's not just about talent. It's about doing the legwork, which is what you described doing, playing shitty gigs, writing 1,000 drafts. That's the kind of...
Yeah. And it's persistence and it's having the strength to cope with rejection because also not every editor, not every publisher is right. Yeah. And that is a very difficult mental thing to get over.
Yeah. And all of the ones that send back your manuscript are wrong.
Oh, and they also have no taste. So fuck them. It's so true. It's so hard not to take things personally. But I think at least in advertising, my job is to present ideas and have them get shot down. So I think I have developed a thick skin in that sense, but it's hard not to take it personally when on a Tuesday night when it's raining and cold and all you want to go do is watch like Bake Off in bed, you're on a bus to fucking, I don't know, like or the tube for an hour to spend 5 minutes of your life to a group of people who couldn't give two shits about you. And you're like, oh, okay, like, thanks so much, and then you sit on the tube like, hello, darkness, my old friend, wondering why you're doing this. So it's definitely persistence for sure. And especially in a world of social media, like I look online and it's so easy to see the success of other people and be like, oh, they booked this gig, they're doing so well. And, I literally made eye contact with a woman who, you know what I mean? Like really did not like my joke about waxing. And I feel sad about my life. So I don't know. I still want to talk about waxing though. I really like talking about that.
I'm just imagining her getting on the tube and sitting opposite you, and that would be a really awkward
I would have loved it. I would have been like, so, huh? Don't like waxing stories. You think you're better than me? And then like when I get angry, I suddenly become like a jumped up little like New Yorker. I'm like, oh, really? Like, so yeah, all right, fine. So my comedy's not for you. Like, go fuck yourself.
Italian American.
I don't know why. Wow. I think in another life, I was. If I get angry, I just get all like, oh, all right, like fuck you then.
You don't like my cannoli? Fuck. Okay, let's move on and start talking about your 3 things to create the perfect world. Do you want to talk us through your first change?
Yes. And I think, again, first of all, thank you so much for asking this question. And it's amazing how many things pop into your head. But the first one is going to seem really small. And I don't mean to be that single girl or woman, as I have to remind myself, like I'm a woman now. And my first change would be that I think that men should wear engagement rings.
Engaged men or just men?
All men. I'm just kidding. I basically think I don't know why women have to be the ones to declare their marital status and not men. And it's really odd to me. One, I think it makes it feel like, again, like we have to adorn ourselves with these symbols. I love jewelry too. But I think it's weird that we have to kind of say, I'm off the market, I'm not available, but men get to kind of roam through just ambiguously.
It's like an ownership thing. It's so obviously sexist. Yes. But even when it comes to being married, it's weirder for a woman not to wear a wedding ring than it is for a man.
Absolutely. I think
they should be branded, personally.
On your forehead. Definitely. I mean, it's something that started as a joke in my head because I remember once being at a party and talking to this guy for a really long time. And it wasn't till I think hours later, that the girl, it wasn't just a girlfriend, it was a fiance. And in my mind, I went, oh my gosh, first of all, what a waste of my time. Secondly, it felt unfair to me that, I don't know. I don't know if it would make the world a better place. It would make my world a better place. I think it would. It would actually be, but maybe it would be nice for men too. Why shouldn't they get to go? I'm really happy to declare my love for someone through the power of jewelry.
Yeah. But also it's like women taking the surname, isn't it? The whole thing is tied on to women being off the market.
Completely.
So, Bronwyn, are you saying it would improve your life because you would not have to waste time talking to men who have been ringed? Is that what you mean?
I think I'm just someone who's I'm just a hardcore feminist. I believe in just like equality, and I think one, from a selfish level, I don't want to talk to people who are not going to at least let me know this is not going the way you think it's going. Let's say in that way. I also think it would be nice just to balance it out for women. Again, the pressure on men to find the right ring for women, for them. First of all, it's a complete racket, the price of engagement rings and all of that. I mean, don't get me started on the wedding industry, but I just think, why can't it be something that says we're in this together? I've proposed to you or you've proposed to me. Women propose to men. So then what happens? They put the ring on themselves. I don't understand.
They get down on one knee and put it on themselves.
Exactly. Go like, yeah. So why can't it be something? There's just so many things in life that they seem small, but what they signal again is that, I have ownership over you and we are not equal.
Yeah. And everyone else needs to know that you're off the market, but I can be seen to be free if I want to.
But I can be seen to be free. So this becomes something that you have to then show to the world. But what does it say about the man? And I just think it would be a really lovely thing for both people to experience.
So that's answer. One of my questions was going to be, should no one wear rings? But you've said actually that takes the joy out of the whole thing for everybody.
I think I get why people like rings. I think, like I said, I'm not someone who's I'm not married. I don't really have any intention of getting married, but that's a personal preference. But, I think if you're excited about it, then it should be an excitement and a moment that is shared together. I don't know why men can't have that too. We should use jewelry to show more than just our marital status. I should know that, like, have you just gotten out of a long-term relationship? Are you looking for something? It should, we have like a green emerald or red emerald or
like a diamond encrusted flashing light on your head.
It just says, I have a lot of baggage, a little baggage. I have a dog. I don't know. I think that
is a great idea.
I love that idea. Yeah.
Just I'm desperate.
Really,
yeah. But with diamonds.
For fuck's sake, marry me,
please.
Okay, let's move on. That's great. Talk us through your second idea, Bronwyn.
Okay, so my second idea, I think it might be what I've listed as my third, but I want to talk about the second. Is I had this idea. So something, a thing that's really close to my heart is loneliness. I don't know what it is. Ever since I was a child, the thought of someone feeling alone like really makes me sad. And I don't know if it's because from moving around, I had so many moments in life where I had to, sit in the cafeteria table on my own, or travel by myself. And as I've gotten older, I've a cause that's really close to my heart is just the I think a lot of older people, when their families move away, they're alone. And I think that so many people would benefit from a relationship or a companionship with an older person. And I think it goes both ways. And what I would love to see if people were buddied up with an older person. And I think that a young person would learn a lot. And I think an older person could learn a lot from them. And there would be this mutual exchange of companionship and time. And I think it would be a beautiful thing. I haven't really thought the logistics of it out. I think also because from moving around, I never lived close to my grandparents when they were alive. So I didn't have that relationship that I know some people are lucky enough to have. And then I've only got one grandparent left anyway, and she's all the way in Zimbabwe, so I don't get to see her. But it also, this is such a crazy side story, but during the pandemic, I did so much walking around, and I went and I lived with my mom in Wiltshire in the countryside, and ended up meeting this older gentleman named Paul. And he was just the nicest person, and he invited me over for a cup of tea, and I went and had a cup of tea, and the stories that were shared that afternoon were so nice. And he had a family that just didn't live with him, and he spent all this time alone, and he had joined some small groups, I think, to kind of get out and about. But I just thought this was one person that I've met, and I felt like my life had changed. I know it sounds cheesy, but it was such a wonderful experience. And I just thought, how many people are sitting in their homes alone, and they've got so much to say. And I felt like it was a nice, something lovely for me to experience too, right? Just meeting someone whose life was so different from mine. You get perspective, you get to share stories. I think it's the art of conversation, with an older person is different. I loved it. And I wish I could offer a service where more people would get that chance.
I think there's a real crossover, isn't there, of like people that are, I don't know, say arbitrarily under 25 and people that are over 70 maybe, who are not bogged down as people in more middle age like Shona and I by work and mortgages and all that. So are more open and curious and have time to think and reflect, and the interesting chemistry that can happen when a young person is curious with an old person, and like Judi Dench and her grandson on TikTok.
Oh my god, the jokes are just brilliant. But it's also going to be beneficial for young people to slow down and listen and be off their phones, not have
and for old people to hurry up a bit. No,
But I'm wondering whether I remember when you were talking about your early days in stand-up, and then again with you being quite lonely when you moved, do you feel like it made you kinder because you've suffered rejection, you've been told, you've had to kind of put yourself out there a lot,
Yeah.
And then moving to a new school at age 11 would be difficult. To a different country is on another level. So I just wonder whether you're more empathic because of those experiences.
Absolutely. I think, growing up, having parents, and what was interesting, my parents are from two different continents, but shared very similar values. They, my dad grew up in Ireland and was very, very religious, and my mom too. But then together, we never went to church. We were just kind of raised to go, if that's something you want to pursue, do it on your own, do your research. I'll take you to church. But, as far as we're concerned, these are the things I was instilled in me to kind of be a good person, be a good listener, be kind, be generous as much as you can all the time. So since I was a kid. So certainly with moving around, I think I've become an empathetic person, but I think it's also just something I was taught a lot as a child. I think also in Zimbabwean culture, at least, there's very much a respect your elders thing too. So culturally, anyone, even if you're a year older than me, I had to show you respect because you were like, so that was just something that was drilled into me from a young age. Whether me and my sister always felt that way or that was exercise, I don't know. But I definitely think even, in my life, I try to be kind as much as I can. And not because I want to get anything out of it. I just think why wouldn't I be? I have no reason to be mean to people or rude. I cannot stand bad manners. It's also just a manners thing. I think be polite, be good, until someone gives you a reason not to be. And especially in my industry, I think it's changed a lot now, but I know the world of advertising is very competitive, very male dominated. And I feel like, in the early days, there were so many people I worked with massive egos. And I felt like I had to compromise for them. It was always, this person's difficult, but they're really good. So just deal with it. Or this person has a bad temper, but that's why they're so great. And I thought, why isn't anyone, no one's ever said, hey, like Bronwyn is a cheerful person. Let's all be like, I don't know, like there was never kind of come to my level. Do you know what I mean? Which is, let's just enjoy the fact that we're not changing the world with our work here. We're not saving lives. We're making ads. And I used to get so frustrated that I felt like it was always about compromising for people with bad attitude, bad energy, shitty behavior. And I think it's so much easier to be nice and kind. I'm also a very chatty person. I think like I'll talk to anyone. I love talking. And even the other day I was waiting for the bus. I've just moved to North London. So I think I have a bit of that kind of like glow about me. That's like, wow, like a new place. Here I am. And I was at the bus stop and this old man, he had missed the bus. The fact that me and like a man in his 70s were at the same like exercise level is probably not great. That like we both tried to run for the bus and like he had an excuse to miss it and like I didn't. I was just like,
it would have been worse if he'd beat you and overtaken you and got on the bus.
I would not have been surprised. I've moved to like Crouch End. It's very hilly but I could have just left it alone, but I looked at my phone to see when the next bus was coming and I just said to him, hey, like Google tells me we've only got like a 3-minute wait. And he was like, like you've consulted the Oracle. And we just had like a laugh. And then I just thought, well, this is a nice person who feels like having a chat. Let's chat. And then we ended up talking all the way to the tube. And then he had to get to a hospital in the city center. And I was going to like a gig. So I helped him get to the right stop.
That's so cool.
We exchanged numbers. He's going to try to come to my next gig with his wife. And all that happened, I think, just because we were both open to having a chat. If I could somehow bring this energy to meeting like people like men my age, that'd be great. But right now
maybe he'll introduce you to some people, who knows?
We've got a hot grandson. I don't know, but it's very nice that I get along very well with like people in their 70s.
It's a start.
A start. The universe was like, okay, well,
I really want to know if he has a hot grandson because this will be an amazing story.
I love this story. I know. I want to know what happens next. I want to see what happens when he comes to your gig.
Oh my God. His wife is going to be like, why have you dragged me to this shitty pub to see this girl talk about Blackpool? But yeah, that's the problem. I think I was raised on rom-coms. I'm all like, everything is a meet cute in my mind. I'm just like, where is this going to lead?
Yeah.
Nowhere.
I think it's a great way to be.
It must help you in your work as well, like being able to empathize and be interested in all people, all age range. I think there are organizations that you you can actually find that will buddy you up with an old person should you have time and space in your life to do that. But anyway,
yes,
I fully endorse this idea, but it must help you if you're thinking of like creative campaigns that are, meant to engage as wide an audience, rather than being the guy that's like Jasper in his scoop neck vest who works for, an ad agency and went to a private, he's not going to write the stuff that people are going to care about, whereas your curiosity about everybody, that's just a really lovely way of being open to the world, and it would make your work better.
I think curiosity is such an important thing. I mean, again, I was taught that, be curious. If you want to learn something, go. My dad was old school though. It was back in the days of like, before the internet, it was, if we were reading and I didn't know a word, get the dictionary out. Let's look at it together. Let's look at the definition. Okay. You don't know what that means. Let's go look at another. Oh, you don't know. Let's get we had encyclopedias. You get the encyclopedias out. And then it was like, oh no, now we're down to like history of Ireland. And all I asked for was help on these fractions. And I don't know, but it's funny because I talk about this with like, I work at my job in advertising is to speak to and entertain many people, right? And the thing that I think is important is, I shouldn't have to have children to write ads for mothers, right? And fathers or people or families or anyone who has kids. My job is to do the research and understand and try to make things that appeal to those people. And it's funny how many times, you'll be in our industry and you'll get certain people who go, well, I don't want to work on that. I don't want to work on a shampoo brand. Like, I'm a bald dude. I don't have hair. And it's like, yeah, but that's your job, is to adapt and learn. That's why I love it. I like that I get to write for all these things that I'm not an expert in, but I go off and I put my, I've written for car brands and I'm the worst driver in the world. So
it's about language and words. Surely it comes down to being persuasive, whatever you're trying to sell, as long as you know the basics of what you're selling.
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny. Yeah. Like I always wanted to be a novelist. And then I think I was just like, oh God, I need money also. The other thing I used to do for fun. Oh my God. I used to write romance stories for my friends.
Oh, I love that.
Really?
Personalized romance stories.
Oh my God.
I mean, up to pretty recently, I'll ask a friend, I'm like, okay, who's your, big celebrity crush? And I'll write them a little, 20-page love story,
oh my God, that's so
between
cool.
them.
It's like the children's books that have their names in them when they meet, Father Christmas.
Exactly. But in mine, you're getting, like Chris Evans is your hot, is the hot guy who comes.
Which one? Which Chris Evans?
Chris Evans.
Which Chris Captain?
Yeah, I could see Shona just like, what?
I keep forgetting that Chris
I love
Evans
Chris
does not
Evans.
mean the same thing here.
I love Virgin Radio and I love Chris Evans. So
I do love the radio DJ too, and it's no shade on Chris Evans. I wouldn't be surprised if someone out there is like, no, that Chris Evans. I want a romance story.
Well, I have a feeling we need to get you to Prima Donna Festival to
we need to
read out
introduce
some of
Lisa
these
Milton.
stories. Yes. Who is one of our prima donnas and publisher.
She runs Mills and Boone. Sounds like you could talk. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, brilliant. Let's move. You hinted at this in your anecdote about running for a bus. Okay, do you want to talk about your third and final change to create the world as it should be?
Yes. So the last one I had was, I think that people should be, along with medicine, I love medicine. I think people should be prescribed activities and exercise. And that is not in a preachy, judgmental way at all. I love drugs and the power of medicine. It's more that I have a huge history with anxiety and like many people. And I have always found that one of the best things for that has been just get out of my head is to use my body, use my hands. Right. And I don't know why I wish for a lot of my friends who suffer and struggle with it. And I don't mean that you have to have anything even serious as bad as anxiety or depression to need to be prescribed activities. I just think forcing people to do things they wouldn't normally do is really good.
Right.
I agree.
That's it, really.
I agree. Yeah, I think the anxiety issue is really interesting. I do think genuinely most of us have some level of anxiety,
for sure.
We don't always listen to and we don't always take notice of enough. But I did read something that you said about you have to remember that the voice in your head is not really you. And some of us become addicted to anxiety and we think we can't live without it. which was really interesting to me because it felt like one of those catch-22 situations, like scrolling through your phone or, all the other things we do that we know are not good for us, but it's very difficult to climb out of that hole. So what were some of the strategies that you used?
Oh, great question. Yeah. And I'm sorry to listeners that I went so dark so quickly. I know it was probably supposed to be like a light suggestion, but it's another kind of cause that's close to my heart. Because so when I think I would have been around 13 or younger than that, around that age, I had one of those like catastrophic panic attacks. And this was before anyone knew what they were. It was a moment where I thought I was convinced I was going to die. And I remember like stumbling into my parents' room, just like, I think I'm having a heart attack. And I got driven to the ER, which I remember laughing at because I got sent to like the kids' emergency room and I was lying on like a hippo bed trying to like tell these doctors I'm dying. And I was like, hey, can we put me on a more professional bed? Like, why am I on this
hippo bed?
Yeah, like this hippo bed as I think I'm having complaining I'm having a heart attack like an old man.
Was it triggered by something?
I've done a lot of research into, this is why I know so much about anxiety now, because, at the time, I mean, for I think around 2 years, it went undiagnosed. I just, the doctor said, she's fine. And I went home and I knew I wasn't fine. And for 2 years, it was horrible. I just didn't tell anyone. I just kind of like would have these horrible panic attacks. I used to sleep in my sister's room just to calm down. I was convinced I was going to die every night. And sports really helped me. Just doing physical activity, and then getting professional help. I saw, a child psychologist who said, "Oh, you've got all the classic symptoms," and I had to get some, antidepressants for a little while. But what I learned though is because when you asked me how I learned how to cope or coping strategies, I think at the time I didn't want to become reliant on medicine because we traveled a lot with my family, and I always had this fear: what if I forget my medicine and then I'm on a plane? So I was like, I have to learn how to get over this without needing medicine. So what always really helped me was doing things with my hands. So I would do collages. Anytime I could just use my hands to cut things, paste, anything crafty always got me out of my head, gave me something to do, which turned into like a love of cooking. I love to cook, just to following a recipe. I'm not very good at cooking. I don't have like some magic gift. I just like to look at recipes and make things. Talking to people, laughter, obviously the opposite side to comedy is tragedy, but I think making jokes really helps. And that book that I was referring to when I wrote about getting out of your head, it's called The Untethered Soul. Just doing a lot of research on thinking. I think, anxiety is very much linked to our thoughts. And it's because we think whatever we're thinking must be true. You then go, well, then, okay, so you're uncomfortable, you think you're dying, you must be dying. That's the connection your brain makes. And you have to learn to go, that's just a voice. That's a separate thing. You aren't those thoughts. This is your body either trying to protect yourself or to scare yourself. And you have to learn how to detach from that.
Was social media, did that play a part in all this at all for you?
In helping or making it worse?
Both.
I think that this is the thing with social media. I think it's so helpful in many ways because you find people like you, but it also contributes to the stress because I can actually feel my heart rate rise when I open my phone and I'll see another friend is engaged and you'll go, oh God, like, what am I doing? I'm not even, should I be doing that? It's amazing how quickly your mind and then your body are linked and you go, oh, that's another person who's had their second baby. And I'm literally like rewatching Sex and the City for the third time. Like, what am I doing? And it adds to that, but it also can be a great way to get out of it, right? Like if I think that's the
and actually that's a classic example of us putting stuff on social media, which is only the bright, happy side. People that are engaged or have second babies or whatever, everyone has tough shit to go through, but we're not going to put that on social media. So when we look at it, it sounds brilliant and they're moving on and doing stuff and everything's wonderful. But obviously social media is so deceptive in that way. And it
really is. It is. And, I always laugh. It's like, I think I have certain friends who I haven't spoken to. And I think on my social media, it looks like I'm about to like start my own, like my comedy's going so well. I'm about to like do live at the Apollo. It's like no one saw the gig where there was no audience. And literally I was doing stand up next to the toilets and the hand dryer kept going off, and like a delivery, and the Deliveroo driver walked right through my set. And there was no one but like a crusty barmaid. Like, yeah, no one saw that. Wasn't gonna put that on.
You didn't Instagram that.
It's keeping it real. I love that this is a delivery driver. Where was he delivering to? Who had ordered
This is the thing. The pub had no kitchen, so you could just deliver food. So like the door would open and this draft would come in every like 2 minutes, and this poor driver would just like wander around with a bag of food.
Brilliant.
Oh, it was great. Oh no, if you ask comedians about bad gigs, like, the stories are amazing. So that's, yeah. And I think sometimes I like doing stand up because this is going to sound crazy, but, or bad, but it's like, I know doing stand up is stressful and anxiety inducing. So it's therefore like, if I go, well, that's why you're anxious. So you don't have to worry. It's almost like if I can pinpoint the cause of the stress, then I don't worry about it. I know that sounds really weird, but that was something that helps me a lot. It's like, I know, hey, like doing stand up is going to make your heart race. So it's okay. That's a very natural symptom of that. Your job can be kind of stressful. You've got a big meeting tomorrow. It's very normal. I always talk myself kind of off the ledge. It's like, these are normal reactions to have to your life. It's okay. That's how I always it's like the little tree thought in my mind, is this is an uncomfortable sensation. Go take a walk. You know what I mean? But imagine if you get a whole group of people playing, dodgeball together to feel better.
That's a good one. What do you do now? You mentioned crafting and cooking. Do you still do those things to kind of help keep you on a level, or are there new things that you do? Running from down Crouch Hill, for example.
So running around Crouch End, running for buses. No, I actually do go to the gym quite a bit. It's definitely I do love working out. Like running sucks. I will never be good at it, but I like lifting weights and just going to the gym. I really love it. It always gets me out of my head. I walk a lot. I'll just throw on a podcast, probably this one. I love listening to people talk. I just like to go for long walks. I find places like supermarkets really relaxing. I don't know why. I love the supermarket. Like, I just love to browse. I think it reminds me of being a kid and being dragged to do like the big shop with my mom. Like, I just like wandering if I had to choose between like a museum or going to like the big Sainsbury's, I'll go to the big Sainsbury's. Like, I love it. I go and I go to, I'm like, ooh, let's go to like the clothing section and look at the clothes. And then I make my way into the house section and I buy.
I'm exactly the same. I love it. But I have to eat before I go. Otherwise it's a disaster.
You must eat.
My God, hundreds of pounds. If you don't eat, it's terrible.
Oh, I will leave with like the most exotic truffle oil and be like, when were you going to, I don't know when you thought you were going to use this. But like, yeah, like I just moved into my first apartment, like, or flat, like living alone. And like, this is a big step for me because obviously it's a lot of time on my own in my thoughts. So that's kind of part of my, like I listen to the radio a lot. I'll put the radio on just to hear voices. I love like, that's not like hear voices that aren't my own. Yeah. I love going to the cinema is like I will watch anything in the cinema. I love it. I love going to the cinema alone is my favorite thing in the world.
Where do you think you get your best material from?
Great question. I think I can't say that German word, Schadenfreude.
Yeah. Schadenfreude.
I mean, I think Schadenfreude. I think I get my best material from, I just think life is funny. I think I think working in advertising, being the kind of person I am, I've always been very observant. I'm always looking around and I just carry a journal or I'll put notes in my phone. My comedy tends to be just based on personal anecdotes. You know what I mean? So like I said, I think working in advertising is funny because I can't help but look at this industry that I work in with a slightly cynical but grateful, perspective of I love that I get paid to do this. And then sometimes it's like, I can't believe I get paid to do this. Like, I can't believe I'm sitting in a meeting with all these people discussing a hashtag strategy. Like, how did my life come to this? Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't believe we're agonizing over the headline for like an ice cream for a poster that's going to go out in Mexico? Like, why am I in London? Why am I deciding? I worked on a haircare brand where we were shooting ads in Brazil. And I thought, I'm so lucky I get to work on a shampoo ad for Brazil. But then also, why am I working on it? Who are you to tell women in Brazil how to wash their hair? It's either crazy or it has to be funny. Like I said, I think I put myself in a lot of situations. I don't think intentionally, but maybe a little bit. I went to, I had a month off work recently because I've been at my agency for so long. I got a month off, which is amazing. And I went to Berlin because I love the city of Berlin. And I thought, I'm going to write all this great new material. I'm going to get to Berlin and it's like the creative juices are going to flow. And I'm going to sit in coffee shops all day and look cool. And I got there and I went, oh my God, you don't know anyone. And it's very cold. Like, what are you doing? Like, who did you think you would become in Berlin that would be different to Bronwyn in London? And I like wandered the streets just like, and I thought, this is funny. Like, you actually thought your personality would change. Like, but you're a grumpy, miserable person. And now you're just grumpy and miserable in a foreign city where you don't know anyone. So I went and did a speed dating night just to like meet people. And it was, as you would think, not great. I don't use dating apps in London, but I fired one up in Berlin. And I thought, and now you're wandering the streets of Berlin with a very unfunny man. So you came to the not comedy capital of Europe to write comedy. I think I lasted about 8 days and was like, okay, you need to leave now.
Was he ringed?
Go.
He wasn't ringed.
He wasn't, but
not on his finger.
Not that I saw.
Obviously, that's where I was going with this.
Thank you for using ringed.
But I wish he had. I wish he had jewelry that would declare that he was not very interesting
and not funny, right? Not funny ring.
Not funny. Go away. Leave me alone. I can't carry it for both of us. No, I'm kidding. Brilliant. Thank you so much. So before you go, can you tell us what's next? What have you got coming up? Can anybody see you in action anytime soon? Yes. So I'm trying to get as many gigs in before the end of the year. You can follow me on Instagram at Bronwyn Cleona, Twitter at Brontown, where the only person who likes my tweets is my little brother. So that's cool. That's cute. Just the one person in the stands rooting for me.
We're going to be liking all your tweets now.
Yeah, you've doubled your numbers.
Tripled.
Cool. I've got six followers now. And I tend to post my things on Instagram. So really just really got to gig as much as I can and get my message out.
Well, Prima Donna Festival, definitely end of July.
Yeah, you've got a gig booked in if you want it in July in Suffolk.
I'll take it.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much, Bronwyn. It's been a pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. The World as It Should Be from Prima Donna.